Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the floor for any questions that you may have. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature or type your question in the chat. And if you're joining us on YouTube, you can also type your questions in the chat. We'll read them out, get them answered for you. Okay, so I'm looking through our email, and there was a question on telekinesis. So what was the question? It was, do you have any books on telekinesis? What can you tell me about your experience with telekinesis, and what are some techniques?
There's a couple books on telekinesis that I know about. But as I said before, that telekinesis is a psychic ability, and that probably the best way to develop telekinesis is through the yogic way, and not a lot of other suggested ways, because the yogic way, it brings about a balance, and it brings understanding and knowledge of the use of that power. So, I mean, I can recommend the book, but I also recommend do not practice it unless you're going to go in the yogic style, where you develop concentration, contemplation, meditation. You try to work on yourself, diminishing and bringing under control the 21 impurities in the lower chakras, because the thing about developing psychic power is that you accentuate the emotional parts of your character. And if you don't have those impurities under control, then you become a loose cannon. And it's not good for people. It's not good for you and people around you. So that's why the yogi method of controlling yourself, bringing about some type of control over yourself is the best pathway. I hope that answered the question.
Okay, Jack, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, yes. I was reading the Nine Freedoms about how that we have to merge our consciousness as we go back to God. So even the Buddha doesn't go back as the Buddha, but you merge, and and it goes on with planets merging or black holes and things like that. So so that's after the stage where I was wondering about the stage before, if perhaps that the mineral kingdom consciousness absorbs into an entity to become an insect, and then to become a plant, and then many plants become one insect, and one insect becomes many mammals. Does it work like that at all?
Yeah, I think so. I think it works similar to that. By the time you enter the human kingdom, because all is one life. So by the time you enter the human kingdom, you may enter the human kingdom multiple souls that have merged together in order to become a human. And then even as a human, you may have multiple soulmates. You still might be linked to dozens of other human beings that's a part of the same aspect. And as you develop yourself, your consciousness merge back together in order to go to the next stage. Definitely, those of us who have walked down, who've been here a while and walked down the wrong pathway and created havoc. One of the common things I think I told you all is that, like a person like Hitler, in order, his consciousness was split up, and then he had to be reborn many times before his consciousness could come back together. So there might be multiple counterparts of a person like Hitler, who created so much damage and destruction on Earth. So that's part of nature. Yes, you blend your consciousness together. I mean, the logos of this Earth is a combination of many consciousness coming together in order to create a great goddess like the logos of this Earth.
I also heard a commentary to the Nine Freedoms that by Dr. King, that Hitler, for example, his consciousness wasn't split up until after he's gone to live on the astral realms, but then not. So wouldn't it be better if his consciousness was split up before he went to the astrals, because it continued to do damage and?
No, there's a process.
Okay.
There's a process. There's a hall of self-judgment. There's a pattern or process where the person falls into a soul slumber. They review all their actions karmically, and then they bring about the judgment on themselves. They go into the hall of self-judgment, and they take the best course necessary in order for them to progress in the future. And one of the laws for them to progress in the future is if they haven't reached a certain development, then most likely their conscious has to be split up into many parts and then reassembled maybe over the next 100 lifetimes.
Okay.
500 lifetimes, you don't know,
All of self-judgment is after the astral existence.
No, not. It's before and after. Remember, you reincarnate to the astral world, and then you reincarnate to the physical world. You have two reincarnations.
Okay.
Not two, but you have multiple. But I'm saying two types.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you travel to the astral worlds, they have buildings, they have vehicles, they have roadways, they have an economy, they have government. It's just like here.
Hmm. Okay.
So you go and live there for a while, and then you leave there, and you come back here for a while, and then you leave here and go back there for a while. But you enter different realms of consciousness, different realms of attainment. Even here, you reach certain, even this physical realm have different realms of consciousness, different realms of attainment.
So it's kind of like a second chance.
It's multiple seconds. Because it never stops until you make the forward progress.
But I just mean you don't get the consciousness split up until the end of that process.
Well, as you go forward, your consciousness may have to take on, or your consciousness may blend. Let's say if you reach a certain plateau on the physical plane, and it's been all good, then your next life, your consciousness will merge together. Parts of your consciousness may merge together in order to give you a greater output in the next life.
Okay.
So then
To be a break.
make forward progress on the subtle realm, the astral realms. When you come back to the physical realm, you may meet your soulmate. Your consciousness may merge again with your another aspect of yourself in order to move even further.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, some questions from YouTube. I know we shouldn't focus on rewards for service, but what are some of the risks we take on when trying to assist the lower realms with prayer energy or some form of temporary descending assistance? Like, would this put us in harm's way, so to speak?
I won't be sending too much energy to the lower realms. If you, specifically, one of the reasons to develop yourself is to develop yourself so that you can project to the lower realms. And if you have someone or a group of people that you need to send energy to or heal or help heal, then you specifically go to that spot and do that. But to just randomly send energy to the lower realms, it can be absorbed and used in the wrong way. Remember, energy is moldable. It's like, unless you're strong enough to give it a strong direction, a strong push, and it can be used by anybody. So it's not good to send energy directly to the lower astral realms. Unless you send it through someone who has the ability to manipulate that energy on your behalf. Hope you understand that. It's too much to go into on that, but yeah, I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know.
Okay, I got a couple of questions relating back to your response in regards to reincarnation and splitting of the consciousness. It says, is that how we are linked to our family members because of our consciousness?
Most people are linked to their family members because of their because of their comic actions, not necessarily they're linked to them, not as an aspect of themselves. Normally, an aspect of yourself went off probably to the far ends of the earth, and it's rare that you come together. That aspect go and gain experience and information all over the world while you gaining information on the other side of the world. And in order to do enough, experience enough in order to actually be merged back with its original aspects. So it's not necessarily family members. No, I wouldn't say so. It's rare that soulmates come together, or aspects of the same person come together.
Okay. So let's see. Our souls can be composed. Our souls can be comprised or composed of several different consciousnesses.
The soul, being the spirit, is the I am. It's the real you. It's the part of you that's with God that never lose that link. The soul is the created part of your existence, and we call that the I. And it is the body, it's the traveling body for the spirit. Because the spirit itself never loses its position. But the soul can create multiple, and it does. It creates multiple expression of what they call, multiple expressions of itself, vehicles of expressions of itself. And it might be a system of vehicles of expression of itself, and which means multiple aspects of itself. So you can have a person can have 14 to 400 aspects of themselves gaining experience all over the world. Only that when that person become an adept, maybe half of those aspects of itself blend together as one body in the life that person will become an adept. And that when that person become a master, maybe the other half come, and then that person can ascend. And maybe that might take 100 lifetimes, 1,000,000 lifetimes. We don't know, but we know that there's multiple aspects of people. The soul may have multiple aspects, and then once that soul comes to the point where it's getting ready to ascend, all those aspects may come together, or maybe 1/3 of those aspects may come together. It's not saying that all will come together at ascension, but all will come together that's part of that system of expression that was split up. It's kind of complicated to understand. I hope I expressed it enough. Any other questions?
Okay, everyone, I posted in the chat the link to the shared folder. You can go ahead and access the handouts there. Beatrice, you say, can one pull all? What are you referring to? Or could you expand on that question a little bit? Okay, Bernard, go ahead and answer your hand. Go ahead and ask your question. Your mic is messing up, Bernard. You may need to unplug and plug it back in. I can hear you, but you sound like a chipmunk. It's tuned really high. Same thing. Is your mic integrated into the computer? Like, is it a laptop or is it a mic that you can disconnect and reconnect?
No, it's tied to my webcam.
Okay, now I hear you perfect.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the question was back to Nehemiah. The other means of telekinesis that he was talking about that's not recommended, was he, without going into detail, was he referring to the Divic method? Because you said there were two.
Yeah, there's certain practices that you can do that can enhance part of the of your astral bodies or subtle bodies, and you can use your astral body or parts of your subtle body or mental body to move objects, to move physical objects. And I think that's a negative way to do it, because if you don't have control over your emotions, over those 21 types of impurities, traits, which makes up the emotional body, you can get trapped in that. You can get it's just like if you go and win a race, you get excited and get over anxious, or you go see a movie and you don't have control over your emotions. You want to act out that movie, or you want to integrate the violence of that movie into your life, or you listen to a song, or you look at a rap video. Those things. The reason why they react the way they react on people, because people don't have control. They don't have fully control over their emotional bodies. They still live in this Thamus type frame of mind and this Rajas type frame of mind with lack of control. So that's the problem. what some techniques do is that they teach you to be able to move a astral hand out of the physical hand, an aspect of the astral hand that has the capability of touching a physical object and moving a physical object. And without proper preparation, that stuff can be dangerous to you. That's what I meant. I mean, there's several different methods. I mean, you could use the mental body. You can use demonic forces. I mean, there's multiple ways of doing it. But each way brings a heavy negative karma to you by doing those things, unless you control it through a yogic type method. That answer your question?
Yeah, that's clear.
Okay, it says, can one pull all the different aspects of our consciousness? Do you mean pull them all into one, or pull on them? Can one pull all the different aspects of our consciousness?
So this is it. The soul have multiple aspects of itself. And all of us are linked as multiple aspects of a soul. So let's say that the reason why I said what I said is that let's say that the soul may enter this logos of earth with 7 aspects of itself. I mean, full aspects of itself, in the sense that, or 7 aspects of itself that it intends on bringing to a full level of existence for this classroom. But maybe 3 aspects of itself fall short. 4 aspects of itself move on and graduate into ascension. The other 3 aspects fall short and have to start over maybe once or twice, in its moving in its progression. So now those 3 aspects, each one of them may have 400 to 500 aspects of themselves. So out of the 3, 1 reach ascension, and it pulls the 500 sub aspects of itself into itself, but yet it still have 2 other aspects, 2 other full systematic aspects out there, and that's what I meant. I hope that cleared that up.
So would those other aspects of my soul join at their own volition, or would they lose free will when combining with another soul in order to aid the leading soul into becoming an adept?
No, it doesn't work like that. It's because all is one and one is all. So you can't look at it like that. For instance, let's say you live in the United States, and and but you feel like you have a kinship to France, but you've never been to France. Now somebody might say, "Oh yeah, you're probably living in France in a past life." Another aspect of you might be living in France right now because you're part of the same soul. You just have a different system of expression. You know, another thing we're told in the higher metaphysics that when a great one like Jesus come here, Jesus had more than one aspect. Sri Krishna had more than one aspect. We know that Seneca Mara came in his full aspect, but yet was reported to have 6 different aspects. So this is, this been written about for thousands of years. It's just haven't been expounded upon by not by too many people. So this is nothing new. This is it, because the goal of the soul is to make forward progress. And sometime in order to make forward progress, if you have been taught the wrong way, is to split the consciousness up and start over. I hope that explains it.
Jack, you had your hand raised for a bit. You still have a question?
Yes, just in the same vein, probably it's been explained now that, but what happens if an aspect of you performs quite nefarious deeds, and can they drag down your karma through their actions and slow you down?
Not necessarily. The reason why the soul creates that system is like a membrane. But what it does, the higher aspect of you can pull on the knowledge and experience of the lower aspects of yourself. And it may have a higher experience, the higher pull, or the higher may have a higher pull than the lower. In other words, the higher aspects of yourself, if they reach a certain plateau, they can absorb the lower aspect and bring that under control. But the lower aspect necessarily can't bring the higher back. You understand that?
Yeah, so hopefully I have somebody working really hard somewhere else in the world who can pull me out when they reach.
It's just like we're told when the ascended master leaves this classroom, the earth, and moves to another higher classroom, and it reaches a certain plateau on another planet, in another realms, and very, very high realms, cosmic realms of consciousness. It may have to reach back and pull aspects of itself from Earth. It may come and accelerate those aspects of itself so that they can reach a certain level of adeptship and mastery and ascension. And then they become emissaries for those on a higher cosmic realms in order to do certain work, in order to lift a good portion of humanity up. And then when they did their job and they come, they are in fact the cosmic master on the other planets already know the date that they will reach their plateau and already have prepared a way for them. So it's very complicated, but yet when you think about it, it makes sense because we're told that there's one life, and that one life is God.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Any further questions? Okay, as we wait for additional questions to come in, we can start taking a look at a couple of these handouts. So if you remember in previous class, we did a study of this brief look at the chakra system and flow of prana. I'm not going to go over it again, but we are going to pick up from there into the additional diagrams PDF. It's in the folder. And if you remember a couple classes ago, these are some handouts that Nehemiah selected from that huge collection of handouts to help us better understand the chakra system, the mystic constitution of man, and the mudras, and then eventually we'll move into the other sets of diagrams that talk about visualization, imagination, prayer, and a couple of mystic practices. So for the next several classes, that's kind of what we'll do. Look at the mystic constitution of man, the chakras, more in-depth study of the chakra system, and we will look at those two handouts on the mudras, so the manipulation of prana, the mudra yoga, and then we'll go into prayer, which is one of my favorite subjects, in that it is a very potent form of service and a very powerful way of not only manipulating your karma in a positive way, but also the karma of humanity. So before we dive in, are there any additional questions? Let me take a quick look at the chat. Okay. So it looks like we're all right. So again, this is page 3 of the additional diagrams PDF. I'm going to kind of hop around, or you know what, I may just reorganize this and re-upload it in a sequential way, but I may just leave it like this and hop around a bit. Is anything you find interesting that jumps out at you? Feel free to ask questions as we go along. Also, we have several classes on YouTube and playlists that go into great detail about the chakra system, the mystic constitution of man. And actually, the mystic constitution of man is how Nehemiah frames just about his entire teaching methodology. Everything ties back to that. So over and over and over and over again, we're going to keep coming back to this mystic constitution. That's really how Nehemiah has structured his teachings. And as you follow along and study and practice, you'll see the logic and the wisdom behind taking that approach, if you don't already. So let's start at the top here and then work our way down. We'll look at the higher spiritual realms of earth. And then we'll look at the astral realms, the higher and lower astral realms, and work our way down from right to left. So the higher spiritual realms of earth are made up from the energy configurations of the heart chakra, Tattvic rays, 5 Mahabhutas, 5 pranas, nada, and mind substance. So right away, you'll see some terminology. Tattvic, Mahabhutas, pranas, nada, and mind substance. These are all terms that we looked at in previous classes and in previous handouts. Specifically, the modification of Shakti, where we went into detail about the Tattvic rays, the bhutas, and the pranas. So these terms should not be foreign to anyone. They should be quite familiar in regards to the previous handouts we've looked at. But if they are a little confusing to you, that's okay. You can look at previous handouts, you can look at previous classes, or we even have a glossary of terminology that we use that we can send to you as well. So if you would like that glossary to help you in your studies, you can send us an email and we'll get that right to you. I have a question here. I'm having trouble understanding the mental ascension versus the physical ascension related to raising the energy to each chakra via the helix. Should I expect a conscious death only, or is this physical?
You cannot have a mental ascension without having a physical ascension. And ascension is far away from us. Some people like to play with words, but ascension is when you are assisted by the cosmic masters after you bring Kundalini to Arjuna, or the third eye. Many times you can decide to take it to the crown chakra. And when you take it to the crown chakra, you can ascend. And you can prepare for your ascension. Now, when you ascend, what happens is that you take the physical body and all its counterparts, and you reconfigure all the counterparts, all the physical, the etheric body, and the auric body, the mental body, the energy configuration, the etheric body, the astral body, and the physical body, all is configured and blended together and creates an ascendant body. And now you become an ascendant master. Now you can move through the realms of Earth at will without any projection. Or you can create multiple bodies and live on all the realms simultaneously. When they talk about ascension, that's what, when Jesus ascended, Elijah ascended, Sri Krishna ascended. You have multiple masters in the past that ascended and was able to do this. But ascension is when you take all the aspects, all the vehicles of expression of the soul, and blend it into one body, and that body become an ascendant body. And it becomes indestructible. It becomes like a Superman body. And far better than the Superman in the comic books. Because it has superior intelligence. It's linked into the cosmic consciousness of this planet and the solar system. I hope that answers your question.
All right, Colleen, I put the link in the chat, which will allow you to access the handouts. Okay, what was I? Okay.
I emailed one of the old glossaries to Lawrence last night. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes, I received that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you want to post that unless you have a newer version.
Yeah, I'll throw that up in the shared folder. I'll check to see if I'm recently, but I'll put it up in the shared folder.
I'll look later on today see if we updated that. I think we did.
Okay. So makeup of the energy centers of the higher spiritual realms. You have the heart chakra, which is this green one here. The throat chakra, next one up. The Christ chakra and the crown chakra. And those all include the Tathagata rays, the 5 Mahabhutas, the 5 pranas, nata, and mind, substance. So if we look down at the table, it actually goes into a little bit more detail of exactly how many Tathagata rays, the bhutas, the major pranas, the mahabindus, and so on. We'll get to that later on, but just wanted to make you aware of that. But as I'm reading this information, the table gives more information about it as well. So Nimia, why are these 4 centers considered the higher spiritual realms? What makes them higher than the others?
These are the realms that are free from those impurities. They are the etheric realms. And they're free from those basic astral distortion. The astral realms is a distortion to this earth. Mankind came here, though the realms below the heart chakra had to be created. So the heart chakra had to be subdivided to create those lower realms in order to sustain life of mankind. So that's why they are the higher realms are void of all that distortion.
And so the impurities that Nehemiah mentioned, that's again referencing to a previous diagram, a couple of diagrams actually, where he lists out those impurity traits and the effect they have on the aura. So, and again, in the previous diagram, we looked at some skatas, both positive and negative, and where they reside within the aura and the effect they have on the aura as well. So why can't these impurity traits exist on the higher mental realms? Or do the higher spiritual realms have their own types of impurities?
They do, but not at the level that's down below. I mean, it's the same way. It's the same way in the upper atmosphere of this earth. Nothing can sustain itself at the upper atmosphere. It's burned up because of the sunlight. All those, all the bacteria or whatever. You have a pure, radiant energy, qualities of energy in the upper atmosphere. As you fall down to the lower atmosphere, that's where all the dust and all the impurities accumulate at. So it's the same thing in your auric fields. They filter out most of these impurities at that level. And the first thing you notice when you go to the higher realms is that the light, the spectrums of light is totally different. It's brighter. Things are more illuminated. The atmosphere is more magnetic. So, and mind can mold and shape things quicker and faster.
So that when you said mind can mold things quicker and shaper, quicker and faster, you have nada and mind substance here. Does that mean the nada and mind substance on these higher realms is of a different quality than the nada and mind substance on the lower realms?
Yeah, because the mind substance on the lower realms is restricted because it's compressed to a certain. It has to answer to a more compressed law, a more inert law than the mind on the higher realms. The mind on the higher realms can pull and mold energy quicker and faster. It's a matter of because the higher realms is a physical realm. It's just a physical realm at a different level of vibration. But on the higher realms, if you want to create something, you have a specification for that thing, you can bring it into being quicker than what it would take on the lower realms. On the lower realms, you have to painstakingly do calculations and draw the thing and physically with pencil and paper or computer, and then you have to test everything. You do the same thing on the higher realms, but it's quicker and faster. There's no lag time. And then when you get ready to pull the elements together, you can just pull the elements together out of the thin air, almost, it would seem. But of course, we know that that you know that you're just pulling on. You're pulling on those elements from nature, but the difference is that the Diva Kingdom is there to answer your call, because the Diva control those elements. So you call the Diva, you call on those elements, and because you have this level of mind and magnetic energy, the Divas have to bring those elements to you at that particular time, and at the precise level that you need it, and then you can create whatever you want. It may look like magic, but it's not magic. It's just the law working out.
So if you'll notice, the chakras are generally depicted with certain colors. And as here, those colors are there as well, and they seem to correspond with the wavelength and frequency of visible light in the electromagnetic spectrum. Is that done for illustration purposes, or is there a reason for that, or is there some type of symbology behind that?
They had this way before man discovered the electronic magnetic spectrum. So you need to ask the scientists, how did they come up with those colors? Because this was done thousands of years before the scientists discovered the electronic magnetic spectrum. And it makes sense. The colors make sense. So when you look at them, they really make sense. Red represents the base of the spine chakra, which is the root chakra, and is the densest part of the body, that base of the spine, and then which represents earth, and then orange represents the part of earth that's liquid, that's water, and it moves everywhere. It makes sense. I mean, water, that type of energy, Vienna, it travels all around the body. It moves consciousness all around the body, and it just makes sense when you, especially if you ever go to the beach or to a place where you could see like a goldfish, an orange goldfish or whatever. It looks like it belongs there. It just makes sense to me. You know, even before I understood this, but it's orange represents that flow of water, and that flow and that part of earth that holds consciousness. And then yellow represents the solar plexus center, which is energy that transforms things, which is heat, fire, light. You know, it is represented by the Maha Bindu of the sun, and the heart is green, and it represents the subtle power and energy of the earth, which is supplied to us by the sun. And it makes sense because all the green vegetation on earth, you know, and it's that energy that gives us, the green vegetation gives us oxygen, which represents the subtle energies and the subtle bodies of the earth. You know, and then you have the throat center, which represents the Udana energy, which the energy of the extremities, but it's also the energy of sound, which means consciousness. So sound operates in the ethers. You can't see sound. And it's mostly in this dark blue state, which, because sound travels throughout the universe. So that makes sense to me too. So, and it is the sound or consciousness that moves your legs and your arms and your fingers and your toes in the right direction that it needs to go. And then you have, which is represented by moon. The moon represents the mental world. And then you have the Christ center, or the third eye, which has this violet type magenta color. So it's it represents the command center, and the like the house of the of like the soul. The soul command all energy from this level, and which is the higher self, the vehicle of the higher self, the vehicle of expression of the higher self for the soul. And this, it makes sense to have that color, because it's a highly spiritual color, and it always represents a high frequency of energy throughout nature and the universe. So to me, the colors make sense. I mean, and they were around way before the scientists began to discover what the rainbow really meant.
Right. Okay, so that was quite a bit of information. So are there any questions on so far as we make our way through the rest of the handout? I don't think we'll get through everything on this handout today, so you don't have to worry if there's something you didn't catch. You can always go back and watch this video again, or watch this class again. Also, I'm not going to stop in every little thing. I don't think we need to dwell too long on each handout. If you do have questions, do feel free to ask them, or go back and review the handouts, write down any questions you have, and save them for the next open discussion. We can get those answered for you. So now let's move into the astral realms. So what are the astral realms? They are the mid and lower realms of the lower astral heaven, or heavens. They're made up of the energy centers and configurations of the solar plexus, this yellow one here, the sex chakra, and base of the spine chakras, and their Tavik rays, the 5 Mahabhutas, 5 pranas, nada, and mind, substance. So you mentioned earlier that the astral realms are a distortion. And then you go on further to divide them into lower and higher astral, or mid and lower realms, astral heavens and lower astral planes. Or you mentioned here lower astral realms. Is the distortion of the astral realms greater as you go further down, or is it kind of all ubiquitous distortion?
It's all a distortion, but the greater the distortion is the deeper you go. downward. And the whole myth of Satan was that Satan fell from the heavens. It was a myth, but it has some truth to it. Because the greater evil Satan was able to, Satan and his followers was able to create, the greater they fell down into the lower astral realms. And the lower astral realms were able to hold them for longer periods of time. In the lower hells, a person can stay there for thousands of years. As you come up in the higher realms, a person stay there for thousands of years too. It's in the mid realms where people tend to rotate in and out, because they're at that level where they can experience progress on a regular basis. The people in the lower hells, they have to wait until the opportunity comes for them to cycle out. Now, if you took someone from the lower hells and phase them up into the higher realms, they would rebirth right away, and their consciousness would probably be split up too. So, because that's just the way nature works, and the pressures of karma work. So that's the big difference, and some of the big secrets of the realms of existence.
So when you say if you bring someone from the lower realms up to the higher realms, they consciousness could be broken up and they have to exit immediately. That kind of, I guess, one of the illustrations that I was able to draw on that and to help me understand it was if we were to be just transported to the bottom of the ocean, for example, the pressure would crush our bodies and we wouldn't be able to breathe, or we'd have to exit the body, basically destroy our bodies. In a similar fashion, if we were transported into outer space, again, the environment, our bodies would not be able to sustain consciousness in that environment. So is it so much that the karmic pressures of the environment would necessitate that if someone from the lower realms would be put up to the higher realms, they'd have to immediately exit the body?
They couldn't live, because on the lower realms, there's a lack of sunlight. And there's a lack of certain subtle rays. So if they were to be transported to the higher realms where there's an abundance of this light and energy and magnetic, their bodies couldn't sustain it. They have to die. The same way our bodies can't sustain it if we went down to the lower, to the depths of the ocean. We have to use a protective suit.
Right. So now you also illustrate the major chakras in the hands. Are those tied to the lower or to the higher realms?
They're tied to the throat center.
So then the hands would be the higher spiritual realms, in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
On this realm, because remember, the command center is dictating the necessary karmic pressure.
Oh. So because the hand centers are tied to the throat.
The hand center, the feet and hand is tied to the throat.
Oh, so that's that Udana, that's the power behind Mudra and Hatha Yoga.
Right, right.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they dictate the balance. They bring about the balance. You know, so in other words, the throat center filter out.
Okay, I have a couple of questions here on YouTube. Let me read those.
What did he say? I
The
missed that.
impurities and bring about to the level. Huh?
Can you repeat that? Cause I missed that.
Yeah, you went out for a couple of seconds.
Well, I'm saying the throat center controls the hands, the fingers, the legs, and the toes. The Udana energy from the throat center, and it filters out. It's a balancing point for consciousness, where it filters out the impurities to the point that allows you to hold balance, the balanced consciousness within the body of self-consciousness, to allow you to walk, to talk, to handle things in an intricate way with your hands, and to express those the mental energies of the mental and vital energies of the 6 chakras along the spine, which is represented, or the 5 chakras along the spine, which is represented in your fingers. So and your toes. So that's why it's operated from there, from that center. It helps that seat of consciousness spread itself in a balanced way throughout the body.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is that since the embodied consciousness begins at the throat center, the hands and feet being an extension of that is really the tools or the organs of that self-realization, that realization, or that was really Maya, or the veil that you're actually separate from the self, i.e. not self.
From the animal.
Yeah.
The animal doesn't have self-consciousness.
Correct. But at the end of the day, it's just an extension of the embodied consciousness that begins at the throat as the Kundalini begins to make its descent.
Right. Java starts at the throat center, although it's expressed at the base of the spine, but the switch comes on at the throat center.
Okay.
Hence why the Udana prana circulates through the extremities.
Right. Head, arms, and legs.
All right. Okay, so what's this question here? Could you give a different understanding to the collective consciousness and unconsciousness? Also, when a life resurrects or reincarnates, do they come directly when that life ends, or is it a waiting period?
Well, it's so much. It's so much garbage out there. I hate to talk about it. But people, I don't understand people. They, they go and start writing a book before they truly understand what they're writing about. And then they create all these terminologies when this stuff was around for thousands of years. The only thing you have to do is describe it. each one of us is an individual, and yet we're not an individual, because each one of us has a spirit, and that spirit is part of the whole, which is God. God is absolute. But for some reason, God allowed manifestation. So the spirit manifested the soul and placed the soul in the cycles of manifestation. And the soul, where the spirit gave the soul directives to go out and involve itself and evolve itself back to the spirit. So the soul was created these multiple vehicles of expression in order to gain experience through cycles of experience. And that's how we have reincarnation. And in doing that, the soul worked on multiple levels of existence. Hence, that's what manifestation operates on multiple realms of existence. So each chakra is a major realm of existence. Each major chakra is a major realm of existence. And then the soul map itself to at least what we know, this chakra system, in order to experience multiple levels of existence, because the chakras are not in the body. The chakras move through the body. So the chakras is actually streams of consciousness traveling through the universe. And the soul tapped into these vortexes or streams of energy and created a central being or beings in order to experience these cycles of experience through manifestation. And it's as simple as that. And the technology here today to understand this now, even though it was understood thousands of years ago. I hope I answered the question. If not, let me know.
I just want to reiterate the point that Nehemiah made, that the chakras are not located within the body. Even though in depictions, we always see it correlated to the physical body. It doesn't mean it's in the physical body. They are, like you said, streams of consciousness that the soul connects to. So try not to get that confused and make that mistake that there's a physical chakra in the body. You know, a lot of times we refer to the pineal gland or the third eye, whatever. They think that is the chakra, but in reality, no, it is not in the physical body. Its functions are reflected in the bodies, but the chakras are not in the body. Calvin, so your hand is raised. Go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah. So you said that people who operating from the lower astral realms, they stay down there for at least 1,000 years because of the lack of opportunity for them to move forward. So what about the individual who's on the higher realms? Because that goes the same for them. They're not, reincarnated right away also. So they spend thousands of years also on the higher realms.
Yeah, I stated that as well. Said on the higher realms, they stay there for thousands of years because they have to wait for a window of opportunity to come. And the people on the lower astral realms, they stay there for thousands of years for the same reason, because they have to wait for a window to come. The people in the middle realms is the people who cycle out, in and out, much quicker than that. Now, the problem we have now is that we had multiple years of war here on earth for the last 100 years. So a lot of people from the lower hells are here on earth because of that, because that opens a window, opportunity for those people, those violent type people to be born here on earth. Hence, the great masters called this the Dark Age.
Okay, so basically just the point of they got to experience that type of karma. So that's the opportunity that they have to wait upon. Okay.
Okay. How can we tell if we are one of the ones who are from the lower hells?
I look in the mirror.
Examine yourself. That's all you have to do. Examine yourself. I mean, that's all you have to do. I mean, it's a self-examination.
Who are these fallen angels, and what do they have to do with the human condition? In other words, are some of us fallen? I'd like to think we had nothing to do with any of that. Amen, Charlie. Amen.
Well, according to some ancient teachings, the fallen angels was all humankind that came to Earth 18,600,000 some years ago. Now, the leader of that they named Satan. But when you go back even to the recorded documents from Madame Blavatsky when she translated the Tibetan books, when they allowed her in her travels to translate those books, and she gave us the teachings of the secret doctrines and Isis Unveiled. Even she referred to the human race that came 18,600,000 years before Jesus as the fallen angels that's depicted in the Bible. So unfortunately, and I think I think her definition was physical, astral, and mental, the way she talked about it. So later on, Dr. George King gave a greater and clearer explanation and said that there was a planet that orbited between Mars and Jupiter, which is now the asteroid belt within the solar system, that was blown apart because of experimentation with some type of thermonuclear energy, and the Mother Earth allowed that race of people to come and live on her back, and that's where this human race came from. And the human race and the humanoids that was here before was called the Adamic man, hence Adam. And they made a way to allow the Meldic man. That's how I think Dr. George King described him, and I think the Egyptian. I think also the Egyptian records describe them as Meldic as well. So they they allowed mankind to come in, and they taught and set mankind up, and then they left. But that was a fallen angel, and among them was the Satan that the historical books talked about, because Satan manipulated the fall of that race of people at that time. I hope that understand. I hope that, and that's all in the books, and that's how Seneca Mara came to Earth and they created the city of Shambhala. And I mean, it's really there. It makes sense if you just look at it. I mean, all this other stuff don't make sense, in my opinion. All the explanations that the scientists try to give us, because the scientists cannot find the origin of man here on Earth. They cannot find it. In every decade, they find another mistake in their theory.
Okay. And we'll segue off of that into this final section here, the higher and lower astral hells. And those are composed of the energy configurations of the distorted energies of man, specifically the Atala chakra, which is the chakra of the hips, the astral realms of fear and lust, the Vitala chakra, the thighs, the astral realms of raging anger, the Sutala chakra, the knees, the astral realms of retaliatory jealousy, the Talatala chakra, the calves, the astral realms of prolonged mental confusion, the Rasatala chakra, the ankles, the astral realms of selfishness, the Mahatala chakra, the feet, the astral realms of absence of consciousness, and finally the Padala chakra, the soles of the feet, the astral realms of murder and malice. Okay. So in the past, you've mentioned that the lower chakras in the legs represent the animal kingdoms. So does that mean that the animals that operate from those psychic centers inhibit these distorted or impurity traits?
Doesn't it seem that way? They're restless, and they move. They only move to sustain themselves, not to better themselves in a sense, unless they're pulling on the consciousness of some higher being. Other than that, they stay in these states of rage.
I got a question. I mean, I kind of know the answer. You already given the answer before quite a while back, but I think it's a question that's on most people's mind. And you'll be able to answer this because you've actually done both yourself. So, you have yoga, half the yoga, and half the yoga, we know it's a lot deeper than just being able to stretch and put yourself in a lotus. And so if you look at the fact that these chakras of the lower hells are all in our lower extremities, and a lot of the yogas place, half the yoga moves or poses, stretches, asanas, they put a lot of stress on that part of the body, particularly the joints. What do you, what's your opinion, and I know you've done both, what's your opinion on the effects of the yoga on the lower extremities, thus having an effect on the centers there, versus something like running or weightlifting, which also has an effect, a physical effect, and obviously a mental psycho effect on those centers. Do you feel that there is a balance that can be reached, or if you really want to push forward, you would avoid the lower extremity workouts, because at the end of the day, all you're doing is really energizing those centers as you build the physical exponents or counterparts to them?
Well, the thing is that with the yogic method, the asanas, which is the mudras of positioning and seats of power. What the difference between that and running and weightlifting and all of that, although the basic hatha yoga have you to walk in a certain way, and move in a certain way before you begin to move into the seats of power, which is asana. But what it does, its whole goal is to inhibit the flow of mental energies through those lower extremities and push that energy up into the self-conscious level of the body, and the auric body, and the mental body, and the pranic bodies, so that you can capture that energy and push it up into the etheric realms of the Brahmanati. So, which is within Shushana. It is the core. It is a tiny core of energy, a stream of energy in Shushana, which is the Brahma Nadi. And that's the whole goal. That's the whole goal, is to inhibit the mental and vital energies within the lower extremities, push it upwards so that you can gain control over it, and push it into Shushana to make it a key. So it knocks and it opens the door to Shushana to allow you to enter into the Brahma Nadi, where you can push all this Kundalini energy into each vortex center of energy, major vortex center of energy, which is the chakra. And when you go back and examine those things, you'll see that that's what it is. You understand? That makes sense?
Oh yeah, that made perfect sense.
So what happens to man's consciousness when he pulls from these lower centers?
I mean, try it. Try to see what happens. That's all I got to tell you. You know, I played football for a minute, and when you when you get down in those stands and push that energy, it takes a while to shake that off of you. The only thing you want to do is bust somebody up, and it feels good. But we need to refrain from those things.
So does the seat of consciousness being in the sex center, does it make it easier then to pull from the lower centers than from the higher centers?
I mean, it depends on your level of your cognitive level, you know, I mean, how well have you developed yourself to deal with the flow of energy that's running through the body of the consciousness? How friendly have you became with this level of existence? Do you have control over your extremities? Do you have control over your mental faculties? And do you have to pull on that energy of that latent energy of the animal kingdom, or do you need to pull on the energy of the human kingdom?
So if you look at the very bottom of this handout, you'll see a color spectrum with the respective center and a little description underneath it. Nehemiah went into this when he was describing the colors as they correspond to the different centers. And I believe with that, we've just about finished this diagram. Are there any additional or final questions before we close out today? Do you recommend any books on Hermes Tries?
Misgestus. Hermes Trismegistus, the book itself.
Hermes Trismegistus?
Yeah. 3 times great. It's like an old mystic book.
No, I can't say that I can. It's been a while since I read on that stuff. So I won't feel comfortable with it. The problem is that so many people have taken those teachings and just new age them to a point where it makes no sense. In other words, they water them down and give them multiple meanings without any connect the dots. What I try to do with my teachers, I try to help you connect the dots so that you'll be strong enough to stand on your own.
I've only known 2 books written by him. I read them both. One is called The Kabbalion, and the other one is called The 7 Hermetic Principles. They really sound a lot like the Ramacharaka, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. William Atkinson described the disguising himself.
I think that's who it is, to be honest with you, especially if you look at the time it was written.
Yeah.
But the 7 Hermetic Principles and the Kabbalion, they both, I mean, when you start to read it and you just listen to the voice, it sounds like the same person to me, to be honest. For a while, they were published by the same publishing house, and they had the same book cover, that dark blue thick book with the gold writing. It was the same.
The yogi publication out of Chicago.
Yeah. I don't know who publishes them out. I don't know who publishes them now. If you can even get them in hardback, the way that we used to be able to find the originals.
There's some company on that, they may have changed the name, but they're on the web. You can look it up. When you put in the yogi publication, I think they come up.
Is Amun-Ra Jesus?
I do not know. I doubt it. And where did they get that from? What are they referencing that?
Remember, Amun-Ra is that old Egyptian part of the Egyptian pantheon. And so if you look at the book, The World's 16 Crucified Saviors, I don't think he was listed as one of the disguises of that savior, you know, in terms of having lived the same life. I don't think he was. I think it was more Osiris than it was Amun-Ra who fits that description of a crucified savior.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing that in the 16. He was one of the 16?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. That's the point I'm saying. He wasn't listed as one of them. I think Osiris was.
Yeah.
For Egypt, but not Amun-Ra. You know, when they go to Mexico, they found the same life lived by another person in the pantheon. So, but Amun-Ra was not listed in that book. Doesn't mean he wasn't, but he just wasn't listed. And I think that book was kind of well researched.
And Jesus, I think Jesus' first time here was 2,000 some years ago. And then he reincarnated, and then he ascended, and then he became a part of the Great White Brotherhood. And he's been working through the Great White Brotherhood ever since. But
yeah, I guess that brings you to a good question. Maybe this might be the last question: is does the life lived by certain aspirants in terms of what they endured, in terms of very strong similarities, doesn't always necessitate that they are actually the same person?
No, it doesn't. And see, the thing too, you got to remember. When the prophets predicted that Moses was going to be born, what did the king do?
He went out to try and kill them all.
He tried to kill all the babies, right?
Yeah.
From birth, from infant to 2 years old. When Jesus was born, what did the king do again?
Same thing.
Same thing. I mean, so in history you have that, and so what did they do? And most of when these great prophets or bodhisattvas or whatever you want to call them, these great cosmic masters came to Earth, they pulled out the rule book and start going down the rule. How do we defend ourselves? And one of the ways they try to defend themselves is by crucifying them. You know, and then once they crucify them, they join the bandwagon and say, "Oh, this was a great God or a great prophet from God, and we need to honor him or her." You know. So, I mean, that was their rule book. So Jesus was not the only one that died and was resurrected. He was not the only one that was reportedly born through a virgin birth. There was many. So, and then it looks like they just repeat that someone just stopped. It distorts history, and that's what Satan, who was battling all these great cosmic beings, he took pride in distorting history by getting them to use a rule book and then getting them to write similar things about each one that came.
And I guess final question, how fragile is the silver thread connection when astral projecting? I've heard that crossing this lining will cause you to be untethered from the physical body.
I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, I know people have said they've seen it. It took me many, many years to see it. And I projected a lot. So, but I wouldn't worry about that. Because when it's severed, then it's severed, unless you have somebody power enough to put it back together. That means if it's severed, then you exit this physical realm and go to either the astral or the etheric realm. But most people don't see the connection. So.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and close out today with our prayer.
But I want to say one thing, what Lisa's talking about. Don't we have that book online? The book she's talking about?
Which one?
About the one you were speaking about.
The Kabbalion?
Kabbalion?
Yeah.
I have it. Let me look.
I've seen the physical book at your house. I don't know if we have it online.
We might, if we don't have it online, we got like 3,000.
We do have a lot of books.
3,000 PDF books. I'm sure it's there somewhere. I mean, if she wants it, I send it to her, but I think it's there.
If you have any additional questions, you can hold them to our next open discussion, or if they're more of a private nature, you can email them to us. Also, I'm going to post a link in the chat to our meetup. You can go there and sign up on our meetup to receive announcements for each class we schedule. We have some shared files there, and also any other information we release, we email in our email list. All right. The new Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you next time. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Dwayne, I found the book online.
It's on a website, or you found it somewhere else?
I found it online.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.